Okay, good afternoon everybody. I hope you've all enjoyed your tea and coffee and those delicious cakes there. So I am Helen Smith from Byres farm up in Moray. I farm alongside my husband Bill and his family, and we have a multi-purpose venue. I am also the destination leader for Moray and Speyside, and this afternoon I am going to be your chair for your session on creating an agritourism destination. First of all, we're going to hear from all our speakers here, and then we're going to have some time for some questions and a bit of a discussion afterwards. So, the thing about creating a destination is that it can be done absolutely anywhere geographically, and anybody and everybody has the potential to create one using the resources that they have around them. As farmers, we all have amazing resources and so much scope to create a destination through showcasing the beautiful landscapes and scenery that we have on our farms, giving the public an insight into food production, showcasing our way of life, and of course offering first-class hospitality. Agritourism has the ability to drive thousands of visitors to a rural location, generating significant economic impact for local areas and creating opportunities for other rural businesses as well. Many businesses also create multi-aspects to their agritourism offering, increasing the opportunities for visitors to spend money in the area. Now, this session we're going to hear from 4 inspiring entrepreneurs who have each done just that. Firstly, I would like to introduce to you Jenny McKerr from the Wee Farm Distillery in Lanarkshire. Jenny is not afraid of trying something new and opened the first ever micro distillery in South Lanarkshire in 2018. Her gin bottles are absolutely beautiful for anyone that hasn't seen them, and they all link back to agriculture, which is lovely. Luckily for her, this hasn't just been a business, because in her spare time, she's already told me she loves trying different gins. So it's not too much for work for her. She also offers luxury holiday accommodation and has a farm shop, all on her livestock farm. It is a real family enterprise, and I can see from all your social media, Jenny, that everyone gets involved, and your 3 daughters feature quite heavily there as well, doing some with work. So with that in mind, I'm going to pass over to Jenny.
Hi, good afternoon, and thanks for the introduction there. I'll first of all start by telling you where we farm. You can see the dot on the map. If anyone's ever heard of Climpy, it's not beautiful. It doesn't have scenery. It's got a nice view of Tinto, but it is between Glasgow and Edinburgh. So whenever anybody asks where is Climpy, I say it's a lovely little mining village. It's been forgotten about in the back end of Lanarkshire. So it is not fancy, but it is home for us. And I must say, we're first generation farmers, so we bought the farm 6 years ago. We being my invisible husband who constantly works, he's a fencer, but it was a real team effort to get this farm. So Climpy is home, and one of our aspirations is to put Climpy on the map, whether it's for gin, which we're now on several gin maps, but also for beef, and later to come hopefully some agricultural experiences as well. So a bit about who we are, and this looks very polished, and I'll start with the polished version, then I'll tell you the reality of how this all came about. So our business is McKerr Farming Limited, and that took quite a while to get to that stage, because we had McKerr fencing set up, it was working away. We got the farm in 2016 and established the farming business, and all we wanted to do was produce top quality beef. I'm an absolute beef geek. I love the industry. I've had a career for 13 years managing the abattoir and cutting plant, and I love everything to do with beef, can you tell? So that's what we wanted to do. So we got ourselves into the farm, realised it was hungry, we fed the land, we put lime on it. It was a dire farm, but we got there. And we bought ourselves some 10 cows out of Oban, some shorthorn crosses, and 100 sheep, and we've got 45 acres there. So that's what we do at Forth Mains Farm. It's only 45 acres. Everyone said we were off our head, you're never going to make that work, which was fuel to the fire for me. And after a year, I suppose, of realising that the cows were eating everything we were making and not really leaving very much, we decided that we had to diversify. So it was a real turning point in 2017. And as you do, you get to kind of crossroads in your own business, and we decided that instead of building a house, we would actually invest in a distillery, because it's way more fun than building a house. And you'll see how our business has evolved, so I'll talk you through how we kind of got to that stage. So I talked about kind of vision boards, and as part of rural leadership in 2013, I was lucky to take part in that programme, and this is what I came up with as a vision for what I want to achieve over the next 5 years. At the time, I was an ops manager in the beef industry, and I thought having our own land is just, oh, geez, it's a bit of a dream. We'll see a bit of the good life, nice family upbringing, nice holiday now and again, go and see the rugby, enjoy working with sheep. That's what we wanted to do, quite a simple life. And then the reality hit, and this is our reality. So welcome to our destination. This is our house. So we moved in 2016, and we sold 2 houses, we sold our souls, and we bought Forthmains Farm, and it was something out of Grand Designs. I was pregnant with our 3rd daughter, we had the 2 little ones, and we went to Lanarkshire Market and bought our first house for £800 and plonked it in the land. Thought, let's give this a go. We bought a £2,000 Davy Brown tractor, and the steading was falling down round about our heads, but it was ours, and it was our start, it was our first start, to have our own land where if we fence it, we're not renting fields. What we do to this land is to benefit, is to regenerate. So although it was hungry ground, we started with the basics, draining, liming, fertilising, and we farmed our wee hearts out for the first year. And never once did it cross our mind that Climpy was going to be a destination. It was purely to produce good food and drink, and that's all we wanted to do. So how did we get started in agritourism? You see our nice Oban bought cattle. We love our cows, but we decided after a year of putting everything we had into the farm that we're not busy fools. I was luckily on maternity leave, because what else do you do in maternity but start up your own farm? But failure just wasn't an option for us. It was something myself and my husband wanted so bad as first generation farmers. We thought, we're given this opportunity, let's make a go of it. So I went to South Africa for 2 weeks, as you do. You run away from everything, don't you? Think, oh, I actually got a scholarship through the Highland Show to go and study about agriculture, a bit of a learning journey in South Africa, and it was the best thing I'd done, because taking time out the farm made me come back with a list of potentials of what we could do. Instead of drowning, I came back with a list of options, much to my husband's delight. And at top of that list was, let's use that old byre at the end there and let's make it a distillery. And he thought it was off my head, but needless to say, he started, and we started renovating the building. So we launched in April 2018. Our main brand of gin is Rover's Gin. Year 1 of trading, we sold 900 bottles of gin from this little building, which is 4 metres by 4 metres. We sold 2,500 bottles of gin liqueurs, so there's a massive market for us. The distillery investment, it paid back in 5 months. That was our little still, it's like a big soup pot, that's Morag, which was the most hard-working soup pot that I've known. So we're making 30 litre batches of gin, and our first batch, it sold, I'm still on maternity leave at this, but it sold out in 2 days' time. We sold our first 100 bottles of gin, and I thought, geez, that's quite good, we'll maybe give this a go. Not intending to diversify that big, but this is where we are with the distillery now. We've been doing it 4.5 years. We've won various awards for our product. Our farmer strength is 57%. It competes with all the bigger brands of gin. It doesn't need to be big and fancy. We treated ourselves to a new still during lockdown because we were so busy. We were making sanitizer and everybody wanted to drink gin during lockdown. But this is our stock cupboard in the distillery, so you'll see how our brand has kind of moved on. And we very much keep with the farm theme with the gins that we do. But I suppose the wake-up call was, I didn't really think about agritourism when we were doing this, and I didn't think of Climpy as a destination, but people were willing to travel out of Glasgow and out of Edinburgh to come to Climpy and find out where this wee place is, where's the wee gin farm. And what I found was, it doesn't matter how run down the farm looked, it was work in progress, and people quite liked seeing how we were getting on. And they like to be part of our story as well. We get a lot of engagement on social media. So that's kind of where we've got to with the distillery side of things. And the natural thing for us was to start doing gin tastings and engage with more people to bring them out to the farm as well, because it's not your natural destination. This is our joyous homeschooling. So this is 2020 when we taught the kids how to build. You can see that the buildings were in a bit of a state, and I went onto Amazon and got myself a needle gun, and I said to my husband, go and hook that up till I got a shot of it. And it was almost like peeling wallpaper. It was so satisfying to see what was under all this kind of snow-sem stuff. And we had a beautiful sandstone building there, and we started renovating it and used child labour and knocked walls down. So this was in 2020. We really got stuck in about things because, finance was cheap. We took out one of these bounce back loans and we just sat it there. I said to the husband, we'll just see what we do with that. We'll just have it just in case. And of course we started this. I said, let's just make a cottage. So we did. And this is how we look now. So we started renting out the Distiller's cottage a year past in May. So first year we've been about 75% occupied. And we're absolutely delighted. It's the most secure thing that we've done on the farm. So people now do come to Climpy for their holidays. They'll come as far as down the bottom of England and they'll use us as a base to go and explore out in Edinburgh and Glasgow and the Central Belt, or even up into the Highlands. But we don't have the views and the scenes, but we've got an amazing range of livestock on the farm. We've got some good chat for our guests. And we're a good base to explore Scotland from as well. So that's our Distiller's cottage. And then I kind of realised, maybe we are into agritourism as we started to get more involved in this. So a year ago, it taken us 5 years to get our first beast ready. But my breeding strategy for the cows was to have a shorthorn Highlands and AI them to the Wagyu. So I wanted a really nice native Wagyu beast. You see the marbling there on the ribeyes, absolutely beautiful. So I said to the husband, the beef's ready, we need to start selling the beef. And then of course it grew arms and legs and we come up with a farm shop, steak and still farm shop, and we sell loads of local produce, all the goodies to go with the gin. We do hampers, bespoke gifting, and we have regular customers, and we have a lot of tourist trade as well that comes out to source local Scottish produce. So in a way I feel it's good because people that supported us with the gin, we can now support them with their produce, and it's great to engage directly with the consumer. So everything we have done, we've started small, we've sold direct to the consumer, but it's invaluable feedback that we get back to allow us to progress on to the next stage of our business as well. So all the questions about who our customer is, how do they find us, what's the benefits of the rural economy. You see the bottom picture here, we thought we'll dip our toe in and do Meet the Lambs in April. And they arrived. I didn't know where the cars were going to go down our farm track, but geez, people were all over the stead and it was a bit chaotic, but it was good fun. And we actually sold more produce that weekend than we did on Christmas, the weekend before Christmas. So it was a massive boost, especially in April when the start of the year has been a bit slower. So doing things that, engaging, like we Meet the Lambs and bringing the whole farm package together is probably what we need to focus on as well. So what's worked well for us? I'm not a complicated person. I look like this most days. This is me in my good clothes. We keep it simple. We start small, and I think we almost run into it blind. We don't have a big strategy and say, right, we're going to have so many houses, and we don't do that. We just look at the buildings we've got and we try and maximise what we're doing with them. And we just do it step by step. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is don't overcomplicate it, just make a start. It's the best bit of advice I've had is don't imagine this, you don't look too far ahead. And again, find what makes you happy, and I'm delighted making gin. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. That was so interesting, and I actually had no idea that you were such a young business, and those photos, I think we'll all agree, are amazing. Just seeing what a bit of vision can do, changing what is, I'm sure, lots of farms in the area in Scotland have that potential there. Next, I would like to introduce to you Neale and Janet from Kitchen, Coos and Ewes. Now, this pair are a real double act. I'd never met them in person until today, but I fondly remember watching them on one of the many Go Live tours that were streamed over the Go Rural Facebook page during lockdown. Anyone else that watched it, there was certainly a few giggles that day. Although they are both usually very busy on the farm, they do enjoy some downtime. Janet enjoys her gardening, and Neale enjoys a wee bit of fly fishing. In fact, I've recently found out it was on a fly fishing trip to Knoydart that Neale bought his first 3 Highland Coos. I understand that a bottle of malt may have been consumed in the negotiations, but I think we can all agree that it has been a very good decision for them. This perhaps highlights the importance of hobbies and holidays to everybody, because you never know where that good opportunity might arise from. Now, I'm sure Neale and Janet have plenty more good stories that they want to share with us, so I'm going to hand over to Neale and Janet.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Neale and this is Janet here. Together we are the farmers at Kitchen, Coos and Ewes, and believe me, this day can only get better because we got off to a real bad start this morning. We bundled into the pickup at 5:30. There was quite a frost in the ground and we were making fairly good progress, and we were chatting away, going over everything that we'd done the day before, make sure everything was tidied up. And Janet says, "Did you check the lambs down at the graze?" And I says, "Yes, I did, dear." She says, "Did you see that wee lamb I've been treating for pneumonia for the last 3 days?" "Yes, I did, dear." And that's when I remembered where it was. It was in the back of the pickup. So we had to go back to the farm with that wee soul and drop him off. So that's kind of how it goes at Kitchen, Coos and Ewes, folks. And our tours there, visitors come to the farm, and I normally puff myself up and I tell everybody that I'm the 5th generation of my family to have farmed here in the Luce Valley. And then I take myself down a peg or two by explaining to them that Janet's family owned the land where we are farming in 1622.
It was a skirmish and a kind of crooked sheriff took care of that, so it's not in the family anymore. We're tenant farmers now as a result.
So we've got, it's an upland farm in the Luce Valley, and we're just trying to do our best with what we've got. We've had Highland Coos for over 20 years now, and they are obviously the focus of our wee business.
And we've also got our Beltex sheep. We currently hold the British record for the highest priced Beltex ram at 65,000 guineas, so people kind of like to come and see them too. But we don't only farm the Coos and Ewes, we also farm for the environment. We've got the certification mark for the Galloway and Southern Ayrshire Biosphere, and that means we're committed to looking after the environment and increasing the biodiversity of the farm, and the Highland Coos are crucial to that, and people like to hear that story of how the Coos interact with the wildlife. We've also got 2 wind turbines, which means most of our energy, our heating, and we talk about our green shortbread, it's made from green energy.
So, creating an agritourism destination in Wigtonshire, it's not too easy, folks, because there's not a lot of people there. There's only 28,000 people in total in the whole of Wigtonshire. The nearest big town to us is Belfast, and there's a small problem with the Irish Sea there between Belfast and us. So there's not a whole lot of passing trade, because the lorries, they thunder down the A75, are usually heading for the ports at Cairnryan, or they're heading from the ports at Cairnryan to either the central belt, the north coast, or they're heading towards the north of England. And our farm is 4 miles up, what I think can best be described as a donkey track. So there's nothing really much going for us as far as location is concerned.
Yeah, and so we didn't, when on our, I had an Instagram account, and people, and I was always taking pictures of the Highland Coos when I was out feeding them, and people would get in touch. We knew there was this demand for people coming to see them and get those pictures of them. So, but we thought, when we started with this idea, we thought we'd be providing a service, for a thing to do for people who are already in the area. There's a lot of caravan parks, lots of things for families to do. So it has been a surprise how people are now coming our way.
We realised before we even started, this was probably about four or 5 years ago when we started thinking about creating this agritourism business, that social media would have to be the engine that drove it because of all the problems we have with our location. So we had a Twitter account. It didn't really do a whole lot for us, but Janet had a very successful Instagram account. She's got a brilliant eye for a picture. And people were getting in touch with us through the Instagram account, particularly people from America. They were asking about the farm, and some of them were brave enough to ask to come and visit to see our Highland cows. So we took some advice on this, and the best advice we got from the business people locally was that Facebook was the place to be. We didn't have a Facebook account at that point, so we went and we made ourselves a Facebook account. We went and we got some training on how to operate Facebook, how to make it work for your business. And really, over the last 2 or 3 years, we must have been fairly successful at doing that because a good friend of ours, Mamie Patterson, some of you may know her from Auchinleigh Farm, she refers to Janet and me as a pair of social media tarts.
So setting up the business, we had to create a name, and we knew the Coos would have to be in the name. And you'll all know when you go to visit a farm, go to see some stock, you get that great welcome in the kitchen with the home baking. We wanted to recreate that for our visitors to get that sort of great welcome. So we've wanted kitchen in the name, and the Ewes naturally followed on. So it was Kitchen, Coos and Ewes. The next thing was the logo. Now, we had a great website developing company from Dumfries, and they had developed the Oyster Festival logo. So he says, oh, right, I'll get back at the end of the week with the logo. We heard nothing from him. So he got back in touch and said, it's a very crowded market. The market with the Highland Coo, there's so many Highland Coo logos, and he wanted to make it individual. We had a choice of 3 in the end, and we decided to go for the one that was more fun, because we want people to know it's a kind of fun event. Next thing to do was to create packages. There was nobody really doing what we did, so we had to come up with some ways. How long would people spend in the farm? What would we do with them once they were there? So I'll go on to the packages in a minute. And also the pricing was a problem, because we're not in the sort of main drive for tourism areas. We're off the beaten track. The locals maybe won't spend as much on, and we wanted to appeal to the local market too, so we had to get the pricing right.
So how do you make the whole thing work? And there was 1 or 2 things that we thought were a real must. And the main one was, hey, we live in Scotland after all, it has to be an all-weather experience. And if we were wanting to take our visitors out onto the hill in amongst the cows, we needed to have a wind and watertight trailer. So we invested, we thought, quite heavily in a trailer that could accommodate 10 people. And we had a soft launch of the business in the autumn of 2019, just to test it out, to see if we were able to deliver a product that people would think was good value for money, and to see what size the market was. And it wasn't long into that wee trial period that once we've seen the size of the market there, we had that Jaws moment where we thought, we are going to need a bigger trailer here. So we took a deep gulp of breath in January 2020, and we designed a trailer to our own specifications, £20,000 for the trailer. We put the order in at the end of January, and of course, as we all know, by April 2020, the axles of my trailer were sitting in Italy, the chassis was sitting in Wales somewhere, and the cartons for it were in England. It was in complete shambles and disarray. But the trailer eventually appeared, and it's really been key to our business working, because once we've got a long, slow ramp into that trailer, it's very accessible, and once everybody's in there, they're caged, and we know exactly where they are, and they won't come to any harm.
I think that's why it's so popular with farmers. We get a lot of grandparents bring their grandchildren because they've got comfy seats, it's accessible, and then their children are contained. The accessible is a really important thing. It means we can also appeal to children with additional support needs. We've had up to 3 wheelchairs. We've got 3 fixing points at one time.
So, well down the list here, you'll see toilets. Who would think of mentioning toilets in the PowerPoint presentation? Believe me, folks, most of the people that we've discovered, most of the people that come to our wee business there, they come from Arvin, they come from Glasgow, they come from Falkirk. Goodness, we've had half of Falkirk at our farm this year. I don't know why that happens. And they come from Edinburgh. And the very first place they want to go when they've, after sitting in the car for 3 hours, is the loo. And you know that thing about how first impressions last? That's the first impression they get. So the toilets must be at least as good, if not better, than what you have in your own house at home.
Yeah, and also we're obsessive farmers as well. We really love breeding our pedigree animals and our Highland cows. So the thing has to work alongside us while we're busy working with our livestock. So that's why we needed to have a booking system. We're very lucky that during lockdown, Visit Scotland held a webinar of different booking systems that were available. We were working with one lot, but they weren't compatible to the iPhone, and most of our bookings are done over phone. And because they weren't willing to help, thought, right, let's look for somewhere else. It was a good opportunity during lockdown, and we went with Fair Harbour, who are just so suited to our type of business.
So, how do you make Kitchen Coos and Ewes experience work? And first and foremost, folks, it has to be entertaining. You're putting on a show every day. And there's always that danger that you think, oh, what do I do to change this, to freshen it up? But you need to remember, these people are different every time. They'll still laugh at your old joke, suppose, you know, even though you've told the same joke 4 times that week, you have the comfort of knowing it's a new audience every time. So it needs to be entertaining, and everybody needs to go home feeling very happy. If you happen to educate them a little bit along the way, all the good.
Yeah, and part of the charm is it's a real safari. The Coos roam 600 acres of hill. And we do kind of work out where they are in the morning, but they can be said, oh, where is she? She's no fed me yet, and come looking for me. So there's that bit of jeopardy when you go out. Are they going to be there? But we get some great moments where the Coos, you just give them a shout. Children love shouting for the Coos to come over the hill. They get that Jurassic Park movement of the cows coming over the hill. It really is brilliant.
Talking about jeopardy, we do a sheepdog demonstration. And I'm not really a sheepdoggy person, but as we all found out during lockdown there, everybody loves dogs. And it seemed like an obvious thing for us to do, to work the sheepdog demonstration into our offering. And you know what? I think they enjoy it even better when things go badly for me and the dog.
And we finish off every tour with that spread, that farmhouse spread. And that was up there, that's our original arrangement was when we just did the small groups, and we've now moved into the bar. Every tour is guided. I'm in the trailer for every tour. It helps with the safety issues, but it also means, because there's always something different happening, it means you can answer questions. So I'll tell them about things on the way, the areas we've developed for wildlife. And so I talk on the trailer, and then we'll stop off, and you'll see Neale there. Then he's outside the trailer taking his turn.
Janet tells all our guests about the hierarchy amongst the herd of the Coos, but believe me, folks, there's also a hierarchy amongst the tour guides as well. Well, Janet gets to talk about butterflies and flowers and all sorts of pretty birds and things. I get to talk about cow poo. That's the level that I'm working. And I really think I've been preparing myself all my life to develop my shit talk.
I'm going to whiz through the tours that we eventually decided to come upon. The walking tour, we developed that during lockdown because we found people wanted to be social distance. It gave that option of being outside, feeling safer. And it is an area that the trailers can't go, so we get to go to a roundhouse and talk more about the heritage and the history of the farm. The Instacoo tour, that gave rise from that initial interest from Instagram. People want bragging rights. They want that picture of them with the Highland Coos. So its main focus is to get that picture. It's a shorter tour but finishes with the tea at the end.
Cream tea coo tour, that's what it says in the tin. You get an afternoon tea at the end of your tour. And that one, as you can see the picture there, has me and the collie dog, which we know doesn't always end well.
Pure entertainment, no. The Haute Couture is our high-end offering. It's the bespoke farm experience, and we're finding people's ideas of what they want has changed slightly. They're moving more towards wanting to have contact with the animals, which NFU have got a great risk management service, and we've had them out twice just upgrading and making sure everything's in place. They have been a great support for us to make sure everything's right and people can enjoy their time safely. It's always, and it's why we only do small groups this, to make sure we can manage it effectively.
Just briefly before we left that last slide there, the woman up in the top right hand corner there is a cop from New York, so you can see how much she's enjoying the experience of being in amongst a different type of animals there. So travel trade, we very soon learned that we'd have to deal with the travel trade, because during that trial period we had in 2019, one of the local hotels approached us to see if we could take a busload of people. And of course I said, yes, of course we can take a busload of people. And bearing in mind we could only had a room that would hold 16 folk at the time, there was a bit of work to do after that to convert our buyer to be able to take those larger amounts.
Yeah. And we've got great support from the South of Scotland Destination Alliance there in how to work with the travel trade. We'd been in webinars where it tells you what it is, but they didn't actually show you how to work with them. So we get great support from our travel trade specialist in how to give them your fact sheet, how to price. And she actually told us to up some of her prices, because people, when they want that luxury, they know they're getting luxury.
So that's the story so far, folks. We're always looking to evolve and adapt to the changing circumstances. Customers are expecting things that we didn't expect them to ask for. They want to lead Highland cattle on halters. They want to groom Highland cattle. We didn't really think we were going to end up doing that when we set off. So, and there you see, we've sorted out the wee massive exit 35. Kids love playing on it. And we've also had to evolve along with the changing landscape on social media. We started with Twitter, Instagram was next, Facebook was next, and we've recently developed a presence on TikTok. And trust me, over half of our clients lately have come from TikTok. That's where it's happening nowadays, and they are really impulsive people. They see the clip and they book it the next day.
And we're also working with local businesses. Glenamp Castle now, we're their luxury. We provide a luxury experience for them. Adding value to experiences, that's developing the tractor. And finally, one thing that's important if you want repeat business is to remain connected with your customers.
When it comes to staying connected with our customers, we've built up a fairly firm and loyal fan base on all of our social media platforms. And believe it or not, folks, there are several thousand people in this world, spread all over the world, that are just waiting with bated breath for McQuiston's Kai to start to hear their calves in the spring. So that's great to know that all those folk. I mean, we look forward to calving, and it's quite easy to believe that other people are also looking forward to calving time as well. So thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, if you're ever looking for a good day out, head into the southwest of Scotland.
Right, thank you very much, Neale and Janet. I told you they all were a double act, didn't I? And I'm so glad that you remembered that wee lamb in the back of your pickup this morning. Although I think we were looking for animals at one point for the photo shoot with Marie Goujon, so it would have come in useful. That just goes to show us that location and population are not the most important thing, but social media and marketing is the way ahead and is so powerful. That vision of caged animals being carted over your hill, so I think is going to last with me. Lastly, and certainly not least, I would like to introduce to you Emma Niven from Loch Levens Larder. Emma has a real passion for seasonal produce, and as you can clearly see this passion through what she offers at Loch Levens Larder. Luckily for all of us though, she offers more than just her favourite foods, which she has told me are Brussels sprouts and kale. Food is so important to Emma, not only in her work, but also in her time off. She loves eating out, sharing meals with family and friends, and not many of us know this, but she once shared a pizza with Ed Sheeran and James Blunt. For anyone that hasn't visited Loch Levens Larder, it is an amazing venue. I'm still shocked that it only opened in 2005 because it does feel like a very established business, offering a huge variety of goods and services and events. But I'm going to let Emma tell you all about that. Emma.
Thank you, Helen, for that very kind introduction. I have to say it has been a tremendous day, and I'm feeling the pressure a little bit being the last speaker of the day. It feels a bit like the last dances on Strictly, but closing the show. But you'll be pleased to know I'm more of a quick step than a waltz. So we'll be done. And I can smell the gin, so it's all good. My husband Rob and I took on Channel Farm in Kinrossshire in 2002 with a young family. The vision was farming the land, growing the produce and selling our produce locally. We noticed that there was a lack of quality Scottish restaurants, only pub grub and no real local destinations selling our vegetables. There was a convoluted supply chain and farmers were at the bottom of it. We decided to develop our own outlet, Loch Levens Larder. We started off in 2005 with a small food shop and a 45-seater cafe with 8 members of staff. We never wanted to lose a link to the land, and we still see this as an important pillar of our brand. Farming is the greatest vocation there is. It is a responsibility. We see ourselves as custodians of the land we farm, and we see our role as borrowing that asset for the next generation and returning it in better heart than when we started. We use nature's greatest assets of sunlight, water and soil to nourish, grow and create, not manufacture food, society's greatest need. We have not lost the vision as the larder has developed. My lateral thinking mind and my reluctance to accept traditional farming ideas have evolved our business, reflecting our philosophy to disrupt the rural business model. As Einstein said, I have no special talent. I'm just passionately curious. The farm was originally farmed by Rob's maternal grandparents in 1934, and they were given the tenancy of Channel of Pittendreek by the estate. His grandfather was from Tar Hill and his grandmother from Burley, 2 neighbouring farms. Love blossomed over the fence, if you like. We bought our uncle out in 2002 of 250 acres, which he owned, and took on the tenancy of Channel in that same year. In the last 20 years, we have bought out the tenancy. We've added a further 250 acres and farmed the remainder of the estate on a contracting farming agreement. So now farm Tar Hill, Burley and Channel Farms, the 3 farms of the family in the 1930s. But it is really the evolution of our rural destination, Loch Levens Larder, that has generated the disruption from tradition and established a resilience in our business. It was born out from the frustration of us retailing vegetables, but never seeing them in our local stores and struggling to find family destinations with seasonal produce. We started with a small farm shop to act as our window to our retail, our veg. Now we have a food hall, deli, outside canopy dining area, gift shop, cafe, greenhouse takeaway, totaling in 300 covers. We have also 80 staff. We are home to Kinrossshire, easy for me to say, Kinrossshire County Cricket Club, Loch Leven Park Run, and we also have some renewables, solar panels, biomass heating generation, rental cottages, and a racehorsing training gallop, of course, which was home to the winner of Grand National 2016. We established our business on the ethos of traceability, provenance, seasonality, and sustainability. We recognised the importance of these values to our customers, and they were real buzzwords a decade ago with the onset of the TV chef. The TV chef has done a remarkable job in raising the profile of rural diversifiers in our industry and artisan foods. As we have evolved, these characteristics have never gone away and now are a given. But we have established a range of values that reflect our business at a more bespoke level. Many of you are developing rural businesses which are very different from ours, but many of the drivers and values will be the same. As farmers, we have become price takers as we wave lorries off of produce and livestock from the farm with no connection with the customer or end user. This is a significant flaw in any marketing strategy. There is no interaction with the customer. At Loch Levens Larder, we changed almost immediately from a self-service offer to table service. The immediate reason was to manage customer footfall as we were swamped from the beginning. But the real driver was to establish a bond and a connection with our customer, our end user. We wanted to know why the customer had come, what it was that they were looking for, and to establish their expectation. How can a business deliver an experience without an understanding of the customer's needs? Customers visit rural destinations for a myriad of reasons, and our staff-customer bond is where our marketing strategy begins. It is at this point that our customer experience, the perception, is established and delivered. Some marketeers call this upselling. We prefer to see this as delivering the expectation. We try to establish a brand of quality using honesty, integrity, and trust, 3 points of contact. This begins when the customer first enters the food hall with sights and smells of our fresh produce, earthy and authentic, straight from the fields, honesty of the product. They are then met with a smiling welcome at the deli taster counter from a member of staff, and the sights and smells of home-baked breads, scones, cakes and muffins, daily made, fresh of product, authenticity of product. The next point of contact is entering the cafe. The customer is met by a friendly face and shown to a table, establishing the customer needs and delivering the experience. Trust being the third element. Tasters and giveaways are a powerful tool in creating a connection and establishing expectation. Market stalls where suppliers can meet the customers reinforces that provenance. Our suppliers come in on staff training nights to educate us on their product USPs. This empowers our staff to be able to recommend with passion and knowledge and gives us confidence our ingredients and products are honest and authentic. Interaction allows the staff to cross-sell within the departments and product ranges, and this fundamentally builds loyal long-term customer base with repeat custom. Food demonstrations, markets, specialty food evenings allows chefs to come out front and meet regular visitors and further encourages team confidence, leading to increased dialogue. Our team are at the heartbeats of the business. They embrace our vision, understand the integrity and reflect the passion. We have an extensive training nights and fun nights. And we are very good at getting people to do impossible things. There is a remarkable warm atmosphere at the Larder. It has its challenges, of course. The hospitality industry, like agriculture, unrespected in the UK compared to the US and Europe. Only by rewarding our team with knowledge and empowerment can we grow our business. A new member of the team couldn't believe her idea was implemented with ours. We are always happy to give things a go. Engagement and empowerment strengthens self-confidence and extends our trust. Our strong connection with staff has resulted in us completing a career-ready mentoring programme that has evolved into a career mentoring in-house programme. We also invest in the Jerry Mallett Young Persons Award in the name of our deli manager, who sadly passed away. That will be restricted to non-management, a reward for outstanding service. We have just introduced a health and wellbeing platform for all our staff as we strive to reward our team with non-monetary benefits. The final reinforcement of our brand is the environment in which we work. We began with an agricultural store, giving a feel of space and hiding, nothing reminding the customer where we're from, yet dressed up with quirky features and giftwares, giving us a marketing point of difference. The space is important as it reflects our surroundings on a practical level. It also allows extra room for wheelchair access and pushchairs. We are set amongst the most beautiful parts of the world. And why deny customers this connection? This is our wallpaper, and it is one reason why we have become a real destination for people who love the outdoors. We encourage the access to the fields. This is our most important asset. So it is vital we expose our customers to our growing environment through our nature trail. This further creates our customer connection to our product. It develops the understanding of our grower techniques and challenges, which engineers a feeling of ownership and brand loyalty. Many businesses charge for access. It should be a basic given, a basic standard. We have developed our new sensory garden with a health and wellbeing platform to better resource the mental health of our team in these very trying times. No business is immune to staff shortages, so we are increasingly exploring to reward our staff from a non-monetary perspective. I am convinced that the rural economy will drive the economic recovery and not necessarily the high street. Historic barriers to growth such as digital connectivity, skilled employment and transport networks have now been challenged. A free market can support this if the same investment were to be apportioned to the rural sector than is currently being subsidised to the urban sector. Economic recovery will be community-led and not corporate-led. It will rely on cooperation and collaboration rather than competition. Our vision of great customer experience and service has never gone away, but we increasingly look at ways to become more sophisticated in delivering this. Having established a brand our customers can trust, be an asset and responsibility as we continue to grow. We as a business will continue to challenge established models to evolve and are not scared to disrupt the marketplace. Thank you.
Well done, Emma. And you didn't even need to tap dance to Phil. She was really worried she wouldn't speak for long enough. But she's told me she's a brilliant tap dancer, so that's maybe one for later. What a brilliant speech. One bit I disagree with was your Einstein quote, "I have no special talent." Well, to produce a business like that, Emma clearly has lots of special talents. And honesty, integrity and trust. I think that's something that we can all take away and apply to any business in the agritourism sector. We've now going to have a couple of Slido questions. First one, what is your main motivation when considering agritourism? Is it extra income to allow farming enterprises to continue for future generations? To develop and grow a different business enterprise because you enjoy doing new things? I think it's important that people understand and connect with what farming is about, or to create employment within the community. We're all looking to make more money, obviously. Nobody's worried about employment. I think as agritourism business owners, we all enjoy trying new things. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be doing it. And then that connecting with farming, it is still coming through there. Interesting. Are we ready to move on to the next one? Okay, one more. Are you listed with Visit Scotland's website? Yes, no would like to be, or no. We certainly were having a big discussion about that in the North breakout session. It's a free listing and it's very easy to get. And for anybody that doesn't know, there's a stand out in the foyer that they can sign you up today. So it's a very quick process. But by the looks of it, a lot of you are already listed. So that 29% and 16% go and speak to Visit Scotland after the session. Okay, so we've now got some time for some questions. Has anyone got a question for any of the speakers? Yeah. If you just wait for the mic.
Hi, Melanie Allen from South of Scotland Destination Alliance. I'd just like to thank Neale and Janet for being great advocates of the SSDA and also the biosphere, and congratulate them on their recent Thistle Award. It was all amazingly inspiring to see agri-businesses actually becoming a destination themselves. And obviously, I think to have that quality, you really need to be, kind of driven and provide others with inspiration. What I'd like to get an idea of is what your aspirations are for the future, because you all obviously have hit some great achievements, but where do you want to be in the next few years?
Is that question to anybody in specific or
No,
everybody?
I'd be really interested in all of them, to be honest.
Okay. Who wants to go first? Jenny?
Right. I don't want to sell my soul to retail, so I want to keep our distillery craft. And I see our distillery being more of a tourist destination now. People want to come and visit a small craft producer. And I'm happy not being a busy fool, so it works both ways. So I don't want to grow it massively, but I do want to increase the number of visitors coming to the farm. So we're just currently renovating a second property on the farm so that we can have dog-friendly accommodation. And I'm going to be doing more farm experiences come lambing time next year. So it's about bringing people and offering farm experiences, and then hopefully the retail bit comes after that as well. So that's what we're going to be up to the next year or two.
Maximising what you've got, I think is the kind of way to go. Neale, Janet?
Ours has already exceeded our expectations because we're going to hit 2,000 visitors in 2 weeks' time. We've employed somebody, something we've never ever done before. We've now got an employee so that we can cope with all the things. But I think what we'd like to focus on a bit more is creating itineraries for the Southwest, because the Southwest is that corner everybody scoots by. If you go and visit Scotland, Your Scotland, Facebook, they're always talking about going to Skye, Edinburgh. So we want to get involved more with local businesses, create itineraries. We've actually got a bus from Kilwinning that is coming through TikTok, is coming down and creating us as a destination, which is quite exciting, and they want to know what other places to do while they're down here. We have got now a display of local area businesses as well, so we want to develop that side of promoting the southwest of Scotland as a destination.
Yeah, collaboration's key. That's what Emma was saying in her talk, Phil. Emma?
We've got plans for extension in 2023. Should have happened this year, but clearly for several reasons didn't. And that's going to be a new interior shop, house and kitchen and garden. And it is very much our focus on creating jobs, creating community in Kinrossshire. And because we quite often feel like the poor second cousin to Perth and Kinross. So we're just trying to really get Kinrossshire on the map and make it much more of a destination to come and visit as a whole, and because there's some great cracking businesses in Kinrossshire. Yeah. So that's our focus.
Brilliant. Any other questions?
Stuart McNichol, Drift Coffee House, North Berwick. Janet and Neale, what advice would you give to other businesses that are looking to use trailers on farm for on-farm tours and on the insurance side of things?
Good technical questions, Stuart.
Well, there's some fairly, as you'd expect, there's some fairly useful advice from the Health and Safety Executive, which you need to examine in great detail. We've spent a lot of money with NFU risk management, going over all the things that we need to make sure doesn't go wrong. And because you have a duty to try and keep everybody safe, and I think keeping everybody safe is what it's all about. But it shouldn't put you off trying. As long as you go through all the correct procedures to make sure everything's in place and you did your best to keep everybody safe, there's no reason why farm tours can't be enjoyable for everybody. And if you think it's too dangerous, you shouldn't be doing it.
That's pretty good advice.
And also the spacing, we find the idea of some people's idea of how many you can fit in the trailer isn't right. So you have to make sure that everybody is securely seated. So always make sure you never want to get too many people in. And we do feel we always like to have somebody in the trailer with them to ensure that everybody's monitored at all times, that children aren't hanging their hands out. So we like to make sure there's always somebody in the trailer at all times with them.
Yeah. Any other questions out there? Yeah, I've got one down here. Neale.
Another question for Neale and Janet. You've obviously got a fantastic farm tour experience. How do you work out the pricing for that? Because there's a difference in what you can sell it for and what it's worth. And, you know, I do farm tours in a six-seater off-road buggy, and I know they're worth a lot more than I can actually get bidders for. Have you got any tips on that?
Pricing's a difficult one, isn't it?
I think in the early stages, I mean, when the business consultant came to see us, and the question he put to us was, how much money would you like to make from this business? And I think that probably everybody will get that question asked. And Janet had just given up a very successful job as a school teacher, and we thought if we could make enough money to replace Janet's wage, because she wanted to give her school teaching job up to become a full-time farmer. So she worked 0.7 at the time, and that came to about £18,000. So that was the kind of figure we had in mind. But because we realised this was a bigger market, and because we got a bigger trailer, we're working with higher volumes, we're selling them stuff in our gift shop. So the amount of money that we thought we'd like to make has been far exceeded some time ago. In fact, it's now becoming a wee bit of a problem because we're going to bust through the VAT threshold, which creates a whole new layer of problems. And to be honest, we don't really want to do that because we are still full-time farmers. We're very passionate about farming, and we don't want to have to work to service the tourism monster that we could make probably if we decided to push it.
I think it's also important you provide options, because we have the options for the families, which is the Instacouture, the smaller, cheaper version. We then have the cream tea, which you have to value the cream tea in with it and our time. And then with our haute couture, the first pricing we had, it was the Yvonne Wagoon from the South of Scotland Destination Alliance says that's too cheap. The Americans won't see that as luxury. You need to put £100 onto that. And it does sell really well. It's 350 at the moment for 4 hours, and it sells really well. So you have to cater for your different customers.
I think that's something that came across really clearly through all the work that we've done with agritourism, is we have to stop thinking like farmers when we're pricing and think like the consumers, because they've got more money than most farmers. We really have to think not like a farmer and more like a tourism business when we're pricing these things. Any other questions? Yeah, one down here.
Hi there, Jane Grant from Borders College. Jenny, I'm fascinated by somebody who is a first generation farmer, because most people, you know, are kind of well down the line of a family farm. So what is it in you as an entrepreneur? What gave you the courage to do that? Because it was quite a jump, you know.
I wasn't smart enough to be a vet, so I became a farmer. No, I went to agricultural college. Always knew I was going to work with livestock, and I worked in various farms in the UK, New Zealand, down in England, and just decided I wanted to farm. And then when the family arrived, there was a bigger will there that we wanted to bring the kids up in a farm environment. So we were lucky, we took our opportunity and we got our bit of land. And I suppose the drive is there because it's something we've always wanted. We need to farm it differently. We can't look at traditional models, but I still feel we're in quite a fortunate position as first generation, because we've got nobody to tell us what to do and there's no model to follow. It's on gut feel, and it's the risks that we're willing to take to develop the farm. So I do feel quite fortunate as first generation that we can just crack on and bypass the politics and get on with what we need to do.
I'm intrigued. Did you have a long business plan model for what you're doing, or have you done a bit and thought, that worked really well, let's expand on that?
Aye, pretty much. We're just winging it.
Love that. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, we've got one over here.
Stephen Melville, farm in Fife and some holiday lodges, and start doing some travel tours as well. I work as an agricultural advisor as well, and I help various people to diversify. And one of my thoughts in the back of my head is always, we all want to offer additional tourism
offerings to the public, but we also live in some remarkable countryside, and we're very privileged in that respect. And it's great to be able to share that with the public and to give them experiences. But for all of you there, does the thought of how do you protect yourselves, your family, and your privacy come into things at all? And how do you balance that? I suppose it's a fine tightrope between enjoying life and having people all over your farm. Is it a consideration for you?
Oh, that's one that I know we suffer from sometimes.
Well, I think we're very lucky because our tours all have to be booked. Nobody can just turn up. We're not open all the time, and people are starting to. We do get some turn up on the off chance, but we make it clear in the literature must be booked. I have hidden in the shed at one point while washing my tops because I was hoping that Neale would go out and deal with the 3 carloads that had just turned up on spec. But we're quite fortunate in that because our tours go right out onto the hill, the Coos are never visible from the roadside. So if they were, we might get more passing through trade. So that's how we manage to keep it that people don't pass in the off chance, because the Coos are always a way out off site. But we do make it clear. And that's how, when we have days with our pedigree sheep sales, there's no tours on then. And we have got better. To begin with, we wanted to build up that trade, and you felt, oh, I can't say no, you know, because these people want to come. But now we're much better at saying no. And you have to get that discipline in teaching yourself to say, no, we need our time too.
You do need to set your own boundaries. Yeah. Emma?
It is a real difficulty, especially where we are and we're so open with Loch Leven and the whole trail that goes round, and quite often people will want to park in the car park at 6 o'clock in the morning and head off and not be seen all day, or there is an expectation of ownership, so people feel that it's not a private car park, and so we definitely do have some issues on that front. But in the winter time especially, we tend to have security gates, and we also moved 5 years ago to across the road, so we're not quite on site. But it is an issue, and it is a fine balance trying to make sure that you have some privacy and time off. But when you're farming, there is no real time off or privacy. We're kind of open to the elements most of the time anyway, so I think it's a kind of inbuilt thing in us anyway. But I think if you asked our 2 girls that question, they might have a very different answer.
Moving's quite extreme. But Jenny, do you have that balance?
I mean, we stay on site as well, and it was quite daunting having our first guest come and stay at the cottage, and it certainly tones us down when we're working with sheep. So we're always mindful that there's people in earshot a lot of the time. So you just adapt, and I suppose it's a price we're willing to pay. We welcome people onto our farm and letting them be part of it, because we feel very privileged to have that lifestyle, so we enjoy sharing it, but it certainly tones us down a bit.
We've probably got time for 1, maybe 2 more questions. Is there one up the back here?
Robin Wallace, Bengairn Country Lodges. This is a question really for Neale and Janet. Unlike the 2 other speakers, you're tenant farmers. Have you ever had, or can you foresee a time when your landlord might want to perhaps increase your rent because you've diversified and you're doing well? You know, what's your landlord's feelings on what you've done so far?
Yeah, you're right, Robin, we are tenant farmers. I approached our landlord about 5 years ago, maybe. I wrote to him and said I'd like to diversify into tourism. As tenant farmers have to do, you have to ask the landlord's permission. But we have a good relationship with our landlord, and I know that he doesn't want to be bothered with me spending thousands and thousands of pounds on his farm that he might have to reimburse me at some stage if it's a tenant's improvement. So the deal was that anything we spent in the farmyard to create our tourism venture would be my gift to him if we ever left the farm. So it was a no-brainer for him to say, yep, on you go. Go ahead, Mr. McKerr.
That's good. I think it probably totally depends on your landlord in that situation, and you've obviously got a very good relationship with your one. I think we've got time for 1 more question. Is there any more questions? Yeah, Fiona. You're right in the middle. Tricky to get a mic.
Just on the same vein of working and living and everything being on your doorstep, what do you all do to switch off?
Oh, good question. Emma?
I run.
Not off the stage, I hope.
Hence the trainers.
Neale?
I'm deaf, I didn't hear the question. Sorry.
What do you do?
Oh, what do you do to switch off? Well, you wouldn't think it to look at me, but I'm a closet skier. For 1 week in the year, I go skiing and I never think of home until I see the Ailsa Craig coming back down the road.
Great. And I'm a really keen gardener. If you can't find me, I'm in the greenhouse.
I drink gin.